Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Top 9 Podcast. My name's Tom Cassidy. With me today is my co-host, Adele Carollo. Adele, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Welcome to the episode.
Yeah, welcome to me. Welcome to you. We have a very special guest today. One of my favorite comedians and podcasters, Zac Amico, is with us today.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Of course, Zac. How are you?
I'm doing great, man.
Good. You know Zac from his Midnight Spook Show podcast, Rap, Bye Guys. He's all over the place, and he is doing Top 9 wrestlers today, right, Zac?
Yeah, very excited.
Yeah, me too. I hope the Ultimate Warrior makes your list. That'd be
Nope.
fucked up. He doesn't?
Nope.
He's on my top 9. He's pure cocaine, that guy.
Oh, absolutely. That era was pure cocaine.
And I'm glad you said it that way, because before we get into the list, I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite era of wrestling?
It's hard to top what everyone would say, our childhood, the 90s, the Attitude Era.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm actually going to go, it's a split. It's slightly before that. There was a time in Japan.
Mm-hmm. Oh, deep cut.
Yeah, where it was before UFC had taken off here, where there were half wrestling, half shoot fight leagues.
Okay.
So Ken Shamrock, Dan Severn, all these guys that were early UFC guys would have pre-planned shoot fights and just dump each other on their fucking heads.
Yeah.
And they would bring in these big bruisers who were just doing suplexes, but the way that if you were trying to hurt someone, and that might be the most. So it was called the UWF, and then there was New Japan, and these guys just Vader was in it,
Okay.
and all these guys were just murdering each. They would have all these big, stocky Japanese guys who were just throwing full force strikes at each other's heads.
Now, was it over in Japan?
It was mostly in Japan, and then that style kind of bled into the independents here.
Leave it to the Japanese to go too extreme.
Yeah, and then the Yakuza was involved. It's a very
shit.
shady.
Yeah.
And then that kind of bled into, that was called strong style, and that bled into the independent scene here. So the beginning of
ECW?
slightly
ECW?
after
Okay.
Ring of Honor.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
like Attitude Era. What's that? Is that your name for it, or is that?
No, that's what it's called. The Attitude Era
Yeah,
is
that.
the later 90s. So wrestling was very kid-friendly, early 90s. Your Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, I knew that one.
And everybody was a cartoon character, or everybody had a job.
I would
Okay.
push back on that, though, because, even just to get me in the mood for this, I was watching some stuff, and, first of all, I don't know if you made your list yet, but, Randy Savage,
Yeah.
right? First of all, the best interviews
Yeah.
for me, hands down, so fucking good. And, Gene Okerson asked Elizabeth a question, and he was like, "Don't you ask her a fucking question." And then he, dressed
And
her
that shit
down.
was real.
And he dressed her down in front of her. So it's definitely not all cartoon, because it's literally he had an Ike and Tina thing going with her in the promo.
But a lot of the guys, so the way to describe early 90s WWF is everybody had a job outside of wrestling. It's I'm a repo man, I'm a Mountie, I'm
Got
a
it.
cop, I'm and then they also wrestled.
That's funny. And that would be their, what's it
Gimmick.
called? Yeah, which is funny. I never thought of it that way.
Everybody had another job.
That's why it was their gimmick.
Yeah.
Because they also were a boss man.
Well, the whole reason, so I'll teach you a wrestling thing.
I love this.
So people don't realize wrestlers work in America. You work the left. So if I'm going to do something to you, I'm going to do it to your left arm.
Okay.
If I'm going to tie up with you in real wrestling, I'm going to tie up righty. But in wrestling, you switch it. That's because back in the day, if you were a wrestler, you also had a real job. And they wanted to break, and if you were gonna break an arm, you wanted to break your non-dominant arm so that you could still work at a factory.
Man.
Stop.
Yeah.
So in America,
It's like insurance in a weird way.
in America, you work the left.
Okay.
Mexico, you work the right. It's there's different.
Now, is that
countries have
something
different things.
that still happens?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, unless you're on TV, a lot of people.
Yeah.
My friends that are on the indies all have warehouse jobs or bouncing.
What league do you wrestle in and do?
I'm a manager. I would never call myself a wrestler.
But you have wrestled a little, right?
Yeah, I've
But
had
you're
a few
more of
matches.
a manager.
Yeah, I get my ass kicked.
Uh-huh.
I work for a company called Catalyst Wrestling.
Okay.
I think we're on our 4th or 5th year,
Mm-hmm.
and we do shows in New York and New Jersey.
Yeah.
We're on Gas Digital as well as we're on Tubi.
Yeah.
And Pluto. We have a weekly television show.
Yeah. You and I assume you would think that this would be one of your influences. You have a pallbearer.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
That's
in a great way.
100%
Yeah.
what I took it from. And one of the guys I manage over the
So
years
great.
is 6'9". He used to be called the Meadowlands Monster, but we had to stop calling him that because we realized outside of the tri-state area, nobody knew what the Meadowlands was.
It actually sounds quite nice.
Well,
That sounds cool though. Like,
he wrestled in England, and people thought he was the Metal Hands Monster,
Okay.
and they didn't understand why he didn't have metal hands.
I'm like, where are
And
the
that-
metal hands, bro?
So yeah, my very early influences in wrestling was definitely just ripping off Paul Bearer.
Yeah. That's great. All right, good place to start. This is Zac Amico's top 9 wrestlers coming in at number 9.
Coming in at number 9.
Before we do it, I'm
Good.
sorry. I fucked up there. So, since Adele doesn't really know that much about wrestling, what we're going to do is when you say the wrestler's name, she's going to Google the wrestler, and she's going to rate him on how hot she thinks he is, 1 to 10.
Well, then I picked a lot of big fat ugly guys.
I'm
I
easy
have a
to
type.
please.
I have
I'm
a type.
easy to please. Don't worry.
She's
I'll keep
40,
it.
Zach.
Hey, we'll keep that in mind.
I mean, much like when I was a kid, if I was playing Street Fighter, I was going to be Blanca or Zangief.
Yeah.
I will always pick a big fat guy who jumps on people.
Fair
I
enough.
love it.
That's a
So
good.
number 9, I wanted to pick somebody more current.
Okay.
Currently, he wrestles in WWE under the name Gunther,
Okay.
but his original name was Walter or Big Daddy Walter, and he is a giant Austrian man who is very much a throwback to the old foreign heel. Lots of chops, lots of suplexes, and he's just a big, scary monster. And when he does like the chop, it sounds like a shotgun went off in the arena.
Yeah.
He's got these big bear paws. Multiple times I've watched him split guys open with a chop. Like he chops them so hard, their chest is bleeding.
No, like the skin
He
snaps.
breaks the skin, yeah.
Ooh.
He looks like a Street
He's
Fighter
kind
character.
of a babe. He looks like me.
Oh, he just lost a ton. So in order for him to make WWE, they made him lose a ton of weight.
All right, so the Google images are going current, but he's kind of a babe. Even his face, like he has like a mean bad boy.
What are you
Yeah.
giving him? 1 out of 10.
I'm giving him a 7.
Okay.
Good for Walter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and he's just terrifying in real life. He's one of those.
Maybe he's an 8.
They,
Just kidding.
so a lot of the guys that wrestle now, I think, are just a little too pretty.
Fair.
Because what happened is wrestling used to be a bunch of big, ugly guys. Then they all married models. And now all their kids wrestle. And you have Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton.
Yeah.
All these, they're just beautiful men. Dude, Taz's son could be on the CW. And Taz looks like fucking testicles.
Yeah. It's like the Vikings raping and pillaging.
It's
and then-
all these wrestlers have these, or every once in a while, the dominant gene comes through.
Yeah.
And not to insult the scariest man in the world, Brock Lesnar's daughter looks like Brock Lesnar with a wig on.
Hey, listen, everybody's got a type.
She plays volleyball, and it literally, if you told me it was Brock Lesnar for Halloween,
Yeah.
I'd go, that's funny.
Dude, he's got the thickest neck in the world.
He's a throwback human.
Yeah.
They don't make people like that.
Yeah, he's like a thumb, like the top half.
He's so fucking big.
Dude, he is terrifying visually. So, I don't really know much about this guy, but it's a good. So you started with someone new. What do you think of like wrestling now, other than like them being pretty? Like to me, like sometimes I don't watch it very often, but I will watch it and I like it, but I don't really. It doesn't because I'm not a fucking little kid like I used to like it back then. But like I don't like it as much now.
I love all wrestling.
Uh-huh.
Current WWE, I've been hit or miss with. I am very excited that Vince McMahon is retired.
Okay. It's
Ooh,
time, right?
Interesting.
Triple H now is running creative, and he
Okay.
ran the show NXT for a number of years, which was the best wrestling show.
Yeah.
He basically pillaged the indies, took all the best guys, and made the coolest show. So
Nice.
if he's
going
going
to
to keep
be
that,
under new management, we're about
yeah,
to see
Vince.
some-
Vince got caught being a naughty boy.
Really? I thought he did it on his own because he's like
Naughty,
old and
naughty,
over.
naughty. 14 million in hush money to different women.
Oh my word!
And now
And
they
yet they
found
still
out-
don't keep their mouth shut. What's the point in hush money?
And
at this
now they
point?
found out he may have used company money and not reported it. So I think they had to get him out before.
It stuck to them too
Well,
much.
before the feds get to him while he's under their employment.
Yeah.
Now he's a sole individual.
Yeah.
But
Hopefully
he still has
there's
all the
enough
stock.
time in between, so he's just trying to get
I
out.
mean, anyone who watches wrestling is not shocked. Like,
Yeah.
Vince McMahon has been parading around women for 30 years. And, like, what do you think?
Plus.
He's fucking Linda?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. And Hunter Helmsley, well, people don't call him that anymore, but he's in the family too, right? He's married to
He's married
Vince's
to Vince's daughter, yeah.
Yeah, so there's
Yeah,
something
she's
for
the
you.
co-CEO, and he's the head of creative and EVP.
That's pretty cool, you know? I wonder, do you think he married for love, or do you think
I
is
genuinely
he a Bill
think...
Clinton?
No, I think he literally just fell in love with her.
Yeah, it worked out.
Because that was also a scary-ass move to start dating the boss's daughter.
Yeah.
So, like, it took huge balls.
You're playing with fire.
And it worked out very well for him. But, yeah, I think that's right. And I think they share an ambition. And that's, like, they're like, they want that power and they want to run shit.
Yeah. And it was time for him to fucking go, man. I mean,
I've heard a bunch of people, like I know a few people on creative over the years, and yeah, I think he has some antiquated view. He's crazy. Vince McMahon's a crazy person.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to sneeze in front of him. He thinks it's a sign of weakness.
Oy vey.
I had a friend who was on creative. In the middle of a meeting, Vince went, "Why don't you wear those things that make your collars stick up?" Which was like something from like the 70s. And they go, "Because people don't wear those anymore." And he stopped the meeting and made someone go buy them for everyone so that everyone had straight collar. Like that kind
He
of...
wouldn't continue the meeting until everyone was dressed appropriately.
There's a wrestler named Colt Cabana who
pretty
was
crazy.
in WWE for a little while, and he tells a story that Vince brought him in. They're trying to figure out what his character was going to be. And Vince goes, "Well, what do you like other than wrestling?" And he goes, "I love comedy. And I love stand-up comedians." And Vince goes, "Like Jackie Gleason." And this is like a few years ago. That's his benchmark for where in time he like
Bob Hope.
Yeah. So Scott Hall, I remember Razor Ramon.
Of course. Rest in peace.
Real cool dude too. But he came in with that gimmick.
They got this guy dressing like Jerry Lewis.
Yeah. Well, so when he came in, he pitched the idea of, I want to be Scarface, but as a wrestler. So he described everything to Vince, and Vince went, "Great, this is so creative," because he'd never seen Scarface, and he thought it was this amazing original idea.
Yeah.
And by the way, never figured out that Razor Ramon was a drug dealer.
In real life?
My God.
No, he had a fucking razor. That was the razor
Razor
blade was for.
Ramon says, "I cut up some drugs."
Yeah, that's
Gotcha.
what the razor was, to cut a blow.
Yeah. Chico.
He didn't get it. He's like a ditzy broad, this Vince.
Well, he has no concept of like
He's like
other stuff.
He's like
Yeah.
old timey in his mind. He just stayed there.
Yeah.
He shook up the world. Coming in at number 8.
Number 8, so I wrote these down. Hold on.
Yeah.
Number 8, I chose an old one, an old timer who I think is the best talker of all time. I chose Dusty Rhodes.
Goldust?
No, Goldust's dad.
Okay. Was Goldust Dusty Rhodes Jr.?
Goldust is Dustin Runnels.
Okay, yeah.
Dusty's real name is Virgil Runnels. And then Cody Rhodes is Goldust's half brother.
Got you. So we're going Dusty Rhodes, Goldust dad at 8.
Yeah, best talker of all time.
What's with the polka dots, the black and white?
Some people think that was a joke played on him when he went to the WWE to make him look ridiculous.
He didn't need it.
Yeah, he was the best babyface because he made guys like me go, "I could do that."
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. He's
The
a
best talker.
trailblazer.
He's the working class. His gimmick, he was the son of a plumber. That's what he called. He was the son of a plumber, baby.
Yeah, man, that's what's so kitschy and nice about the old timers. You
Yeah.
know? That's his thing. That he's a son of a
The
plumber.
son of a plumber. I've slept in alleyways and I've wined and dined with kings and queens and slept in alleys and eaten pork and beans, baby.
I remember that. Yeah, and he was around in like the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Like he was like one of the first.
He was like pre Ric Flair. And then he stuck around forever. He was even in WCW in like the 90s. He was in ECW in like 2000.
Wow.
And it was very believable. He was a big, ugly dude.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like Anthony Hopkins, but fat.
Okay, I
All
could
that.
see that.
What are you giving him? 1 out of 10.
I'm gonna go 3.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, if he's got a little cash, you might give him a little tug. Who knows?
Yeah, then he's 4.
Fair enough. He's
And
got
yeah,
cash.
best talker of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Best babyface promo.
How did he feel about the Gold Dust thing? I thought I remember hearing things of him being like
I-
ashamed of that, or I don't know if that was
I don't
just
think
a
he
gimmick.
really. So they, I know they didn't get along for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think he really gave a shit. I think he was happy that his son was making money. He was on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Some people consider it a rib, which is wrestling term for a practical joke that they were trying to embarrass Dusty's son.
Yeah.
I don't think he really. So also, Goldust way more provocative when it started than we remember. He
Oh my
used to
God.
wear a sheer bodysuit
Yeah.
so that you could see his dingle.
Do you remember Gold Dust? Google Gold Dust.
That's Dusty's
It's
son.
got a lot of shit's gonna come up on that.
Uh,
Different ones.
So here's a fun. This is how racist wrestling is.
Uh-huh.
So, Ted DiBiase, $1 Million Man,
One of my top 9.
had a, let's say, servant.
Mm-hmm. The black guy in the tuxedo or whatever.
The nicest thing to say is servant,
Mm-hmm.
but he was, for all intents and purposes, his slave.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Virgil,
I remember.
making fun of Dusty, who was the booker of WCW, whose real name is Virgil.
Oh.
So when Virgil went to WCW, they named him Vincent as a fuck you to Vince McMahon.
Got you.
Got
Wow.
No, we'll name our black guy after your owner.
Wow. Rivers run deep, don't
Yeah.
they? Oh yeah, that's hilarious. That's the insult.
Yeah.
They're naming black people after the
Yes.
man. That's wild. Fuck. Dude, I watched something from the $1 Million Man today, which one of his most famous things of like having the black kid
Yeah,
bounce
yeah.
the basketball,
And he
he said
kicked
he'd
it out?
give him $500 if he got to 15, and he kicked it at 13. Sorry, I kicked you there. But yeah, man.
And Dusty, everything he did was super simple.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally, his finish was an elbow.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And I miss that. Like, people like Hogan's finish was a leg drop,
Mm-hmm.
but it was so over. And as long as the announcers put it over that it really hurt and the guy sold for it.
Yeah.
And that's why guys like that could wrestle for fucking 40 years
Yeah.
because they weren't destroying their fucking
They
bodies.
needed one move in the end.
Well, they weren't jumping off shit. They weren't taking tons of bumps.
Yeah.
You know, people ran into Dusty's elbow,
Mm-hmm.
and then he would cover you.
Yeah. Was it Ultimate Warrior at the elbow too?
No, he did a splash on your back.
Oh yeah. I remember that now.
That sounds like something different.
But he hurt everybody.
Mm-hmm, it is. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ultimate Warrior was notorious for like fucking people up. 'cause
Being a
he,
dickhead. Yeah.
he was just roided out of his mind. So like when he did the press slam, he would always squeeze people's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Like he would just hurt people all the time.
Yeah. I'd go out of his way to do that. I think like for Dusty Rhodes and Goldust and stuff. I feel like with wrestling, I don't think nepotism's ever very good, but it works for wrestling. Like
Because you
having
grew up around
dynasties
it.
in wrestling and
Yeah.
stuff, it works better than in most industries for whatever reason. And it's cool to be a part of that like dynasty of like
If somebody was the son of a comic, I wouldn't assume they're funny.
yeah.
But if you're the son of a wrestler,
Uh-huh.
I kind of feel the opposite, where I'm like, oh, well, you grew up around it.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of know how it works. I would assume you're in decent shape.
You've been tossed around as a kid, wrestled a little bit with dad.
Yeah, well, or a lot of them wrestled in high school.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I know Cody Rhodes was like a high school wrestling champion. A lot of these guys.
Yeah. And you got to take lumps, like
Yeah.
literally. Coming in at number 7.
Number 7, I think. Let me make sure I got this one right.
Sure.
All right, I chose a lot of ugly people. I'm very
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
Vader.
Vader.
Later.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's so ugly, they put a mask on him.
And he couldn't keep it on.
Nope.
He just constantly took it off because he didn't give a shit.
Uh-huh.
So, Vader is the exact example of what the kind of wrestling I like to watch, which is big, ugly men hitting each other really fucking hard.
Was he always WCW, or did he go over to WWE?
He was in WWF for a few years, but they did not do a good job with him.
Yeah,
I think he's a ginger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he was
So
one of
he
the
was
best
a football,
WCW.
He was a football player
Mm-hmm.
turned wrestler. Absolute brick shit house.
Mm-hmm.
And he's that big, and he could do a moonsault.
Mm-hmm.
So a moonsault is a flip off the top rope.
Nice.
So he was incredibly athletic. He was huge and very believable. He got his eye knocked out in a match in Japan versus Stan Hansen.
Oh my God.
And he put it back in and finished.
Wait, his real eyeball?
It came, so he broke his orbital, and his eye just came out like hanging out, and he put it back in and finished the match.
Yeah.
That is insane.
A comedian wouldn't do
that's
that.
a timeout if I've
Yeah.
ever seen one. What the hell?
So he's so like remember I said Ken Shamrock before, who was one of the first big UFC guys. When he went to WWE, he had trouble holding back. So his first pay-per-view, they put him in there with Vader because they're like, what's he gonna fucking hurt Leon? And then he kicked Vader so hard in the legs that he couldn't walk anymore.
Oh, no.
So at a certain point in the match, Vader just gives up and puts his forearm through Ken Shamrock's fucking temple.
That's such a funny way to give up.
He goes, I'm not playing it. He's like,
I
I'm
thought
not
you were
gonna.
going to tell me he lost.
No,
You're like, then he just won the whole thing.
he lost the match, but
Oh.
he beat the shit out of him before the finish.
Got it. Because it's by points, right? You
No, you win by a pinfall or submission.
Oh, what happened with the temple bang? He didn't go down from
No,
that?
he knocked him out, and then he picked him up, and they finished the match.
Oh, got it. I thought that was it.
Yeah,
Silly
that's
me.
always
Silly me.
That's always crazy in wrestling when like the person who's supposed to win is so hurt that the other guy has to just like nurse him,
Help
to
it
be
along a little bit.
It's always funny.
There's a
Crazy.
classic quote of when Foley was going to wrestle for the title in WCW, and he joked
Mick Foley?
about yes,
Okay.
he joked about winning it, and somebody else went, that motherfucker could have a heart attack in the ring, and you would fall under him tonight.
Yeah, dude. Vader was also in Boy
Boy
Meets
Meets
World. Yeah.
He was Frankie the Enforcer's dad.
That was always good. Yeah, that kid had a really good acting career. He still does.
Ethan Suplee, yeah, and he's
Yeah.
jacked now.
Yeah, it's crazy. He could be a wrestler.
Yeah, I think he would have been great. But
Yeah.
yeah, Vader just super believable. He was that part of that era of Japan I really like. And yeah, he wrestled for a very long time, and everything he did. Now I'm going to quote Mick Foley again in his book. He said, usually you get one of two things. You get a guy whose stuff looks like it hurts and it doesn't, or it looks like it doesn't hurt and it hurts like hell. He said, Vader, it looks like it hurt and it hurt.
Yeah. That makes
Because
sense.
he was just throwing live rounds.
Yeah, he was a fucking brick shit house.
Yeah, and he was so fun to fucking watch.
Yeah, and WCW really did give WWF a run for its money at that time too.
Oh,
Like, it was like
100%.
more fun or something. Like it was a good time.
It was a good time.
Over
So
there.
actually, I'll give you. So the whole Vader gimmick was from Japan,
Okay.
and he was originally named Big Van Vader,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a giant metal. It was a helmet and shoulder pads
Mm-hmm.
that he would take off, and then it would shoot smoke.
It's supposed to replicate a van?
No, it was like a Darth Vader kind of
Oh.
thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
But that was supposed to be the
it's not
Ultimate
really
Warrior.
scary, a minivan.
That was supposed to be Ultimate Warrior, and he was going to get that gimmick. He wound up not going, and Vader got the Leon White got that gimmick of Vader.
Yeah. Well, a lot of good hidden gems on this episode so far. Adele, what are you rating them?
Vader looks like the fucking Red Rocks. I don't know. I couldn't get on board.
So what are you giving them? 1 out of 10.
2.
You dirty whore. Coming in at number 6.
Coming in at number 6, I wanted to pick somebody on the current roster, and I know you're going to be shocked, Adele.
Let me hear
I
it.
picked a big fat guy. Formerly Kevin Steen, now Kevin Owens.
Okay.
Okay.
Kevin Owens is a Canadian wrestler. He's been on the main roster for a couple years now. He's been Universal Champion. Much like Vader, very big guy who can do moonsaults and swantons. And there's something so insane to me about watching giant dudes do top rope stuff
Yeah.
with grace and then not kill the fucking guy they're doing it to.
Sure. It's one thing when Rey Mysterio's doing it. It's another thing
Yeah.
when
When the guy's 150 pounds,
Yeah.
but when the guy's 3-4 bills and he can do that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
like how do you
I know that
like
guy.
gravity?
I took a splash on concrete from a guy who was about 450, and I thought I shit. I thought I shit my internal organs onto the concrete.
Yeah. Did you just shit yourself at all?
No, I didn't, and I was afraid because I had black and white Beetlejuice pants on, and I was afraid that half my pants were about to change color.
Yeah, this guy, I've seen this guy before too.
That's him, right?
My critique of all of these new guys is like, I just don't think they I feel like they don't have much of an angle or like any, like, he just seems like a guy I would see at Home Depot or something.
And I think there is something endearing about the everyman.
There is.
Sure.
And I mean, wrestling fans like me love this guy because we look like him.
Sure.
Then when he's a bad guy, this guy talks so much shit. He said in an interview once that he met Stone Cold at an airport when he was like training. And he's like, do you have any advice? And Stone Cold goes, never stop running your mouth. So when Kevin Owens wrestles, he is talking shit
the whole time,
the entire time, and it's so enraging.
That kind of makes him hotter.
And I saw him when he was still on the Indies under his first name, Kevin Steen. So he was in a tag team with a guy named El Generico, who was a Canadian guy who was a luchador, a Mexican wrestler.
They're the best, dude. I love.
So they lose their match. Kevin Owens gets on the mic and gives a full retirement speech to the point where there are people in the crowd crying. They buy it. And then he hugs his tag partner and goes, I hate your fucking guts. Kicks him in the balls and takes his fucking head off with a chair shot. He hit him so hard. Have you ever seen somebody get hit? And I don't know if this applies to Adele, that your taint hurts, where you're like, oh god, like you're
Oh, you're not even the one getting hit, and
Yeah.
you feel a reaction.
There's something when you see somebody get hit really hard that like your grundle contracts.
Yeah.
That it shook me to my core. And then he had probably the greatest heel run on the Indies ever. After that, he became the most evil motherfucker alive.
Nothing like a turn, man.
Oh, it's the best. And watching him work the people was the most fun.
Yeah, and you can't, because you also have to be, for it to really work, people have to love you first.
Oh, and they were adored. They were like just underdogs. Everybody loved them. They had given their body, they had had these crazy ladder matches where they had just sacrificed so much for the people. And then he just... So one of the theories is that the greatest wrestlers can be a heel or babyface, bad guy, good guy, without changing their character.
Okay.
It's who you point them at.
Ooh.
Okay.
So if he wrestles a good guy, he's a bad guy. If he wrestles a bad guy, he's a good guy. And he doesn't need to change anything he does.
Yeah.
He can do the same moves, cut the same kind of promo. Because so his whole deal is he goes, I wrestle for money.
Yeah.
I wrestle to win because I make more money when I win. And I have a family to support.
Yeah.
So when he's a good guy, he's a great dad who loves his kids, who wants to bring them home as much as possible. When he's a bad guy, he's a motherfucker who will do anything to
Doing
win.
what he's got to do for
so
his family.
he can bring money home to his family. He doesn't have the body.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the looks or whatever. But he is the most ruthless cocksucker alive.
He's got chutzpah.
Yes.
He's from also what I've noticed of him too. He seems like a real student of wrestling too, and I can tell that he like loves it and he like understands the history and what the fuck he's doing. So that's what I'll say about.
There's something also about Canadians. Like there's a great dynasty of Canadian wrestlers.
Yeah.
And he is definitely like the one.
To your point of like the good, he plays good when he plays bad, bad when he plays good. I feel that way sometimes with like, for like, if I'm around somebody who's like religious, I'm like. I feel like I'm an atheist, but when I'm around someone who's an atheist, I feel religious. Like
I
it's
totally
like
get it.
the opposite thing of like that's generally how I feel with like that type of shit. It's just like
Yeah, because too much of anything is so like CM Punk. His gimmick was that he is straight edge, no drugs, no alcohol. So when he's a good guy, he's a great role model. When he's a bad guy, he is a preachy dickhead who doesn't want anybody to have any fun.
yeah.
It's the same promo.
That's funny. I thought it would be when he's a bad guy. He's like
He's
off the
ripping
wagon.
rails.
No, so like if he's a good guy, the bad guy will like try to pour whiskey in his, or like pour a beer on him.
I got you. Yeah.
When he's a good guy, he's like taking people out of the crowd. He did a great thing called the Straight Edge Society, where he was taking people out of the crowd and shaving their head and making them promise to never drink or do drugs again.
That's funny.
And he grew his hair out like Jesus. And he was like he was like doing like a Messiah gimmick. And I remember an old lady in the crowd yelling, "You're not Christ!"
Dude, the fans of wrestling are definitely a very big component. What are you giving this guy? He's kind of hot for
I'm giving him an 8.
Yeah,
Hell yeah, Kevin Owens.
Yeah, giving an 8.
Yep.
Based on personality too. Guy's a savage.
He wears his fat well.
Yeah, and he's not bald and fat. That's our first non-bald fat guy.
There you go. That's why he came in at 6. Coming in at number 5.
William Regal.
Who the fuck is that?
William Regal was the GM of Raw for a long time. He's a British wrestler. He's currently in AEW. He has a faction called the Blackpool Combat Club.
Okay.
He was Lord Steven Regal in WCW. Then he couldn't be Steve because there was already a Steve Austin in WWE, so he became William Regal.
How old is this guy? He's been around that long?
Yeah, he's same age as like I want to say like a little older than like Austin and them.
Okay. And he's still doing it.
He's a manager now. He's a manager and a commentator. He is so there. Remember I talked about strong style. There's also what would be called British style, which again is very hard hitting, and it's very much more hold based.
Okay.
Because in Britain there was something called World of Sport. And World of Sport was round based. So you would wrestle 5 to 10 rounds, and then the judges would score it. So like a pin counted for this. Yeah, it was much closer to amateur wrestling. And he came from that. So he's from Blackpool, England. And in England, you came up wrestling in carnivals. But the gimmick was you would have a match with another trained wrestler. Then they would offer the crowd money if they could beat you. So he would have to beat the shit out of drunk British people all night.
Wow.
And get paid.
Yeah.
So he is tough as fucking nails.
That's crazy.
He learned to wrestle by beating up drunk people.
Yeah. That's like the Spider-Man movie.
It's exactly that.
Yeah. Man, I wonder how many times he like lost with that.
I think if you lost, you didn't come back the next day.
Really? Yeah, but what do you mean? Like they give you a night off? Because like I assume there's got to be some crazy.
I'm sure every
people.
once in a while, but there was a rule in a number of territories back in the day that if you got in a bar fight and lost, you got fired because they were protecting the company.
Yeah, makes
and
sense.
They didn't want people going, "Oh, this wrestling shit's phony."
Yeah,
I beat the shit out of that guy. If you lost a bar fight, you lost your job.
Man, such a crazy like how much things have changed from like. Do they still do that?
No.
Yeah, I guess you're not allowed to.
Yo, you would never, not with lawsuits and camp.
Yeah.
Wrestlers used to.
Such a
the Samoans are the scariest. The Rock's family, his grandparents and uncles. It's the Anawahi family. They're all enormous, and they would get in like fights where it'd be like 10 cops had to take 3 of them.
Wow.
And then they said the toughest one was the Rock's grandmother, who would beat up the cops. One of the Rock's uncles, Haku, bit a guy's nose off in a fight and spit it back at it. Like it was like there was 2 wrestlers. One of my favorite wrestling stories is
what
these
were
2
they
guys
getting in trouble for?
fighting constantly.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's 2 wrestlers that were like on the road, and they stopped at a McDonald's late at night, and the doors were locked. And they're like, "Oh, please, we're so hungry. This is the only rest stop. We've been out all night." And they're literally throwing cheeseburgers out. And they went, "Listen, we'll pay for the ones you're throwing out." And they're like, "Go screw." And the one wrestler, you know how some restaurants or fast food places will have, I don't know a better word for this, decorative boulders, like just big rocks outside,
Yeah.
like as part of like the.
I feel like they're like bolted to the ground. Those things, aren't they?
He picked it up.
That's why they're bolted to the ground
And
now.
threw it through the window and beat the shit out of everybody that worked there.
And took the cheeseburgers.
Yeah, and then got, I think, 2 years in jail.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Man, 2 years in jail is not great, but what a great reason to go to jail for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like anybody who asks you in jail, hey, what are you in for? I threw a boulder through
I beat up at McDonald's.
And beat up a staff. Dude, that's wild.
And then inter-wrestler fights are the scariest.
What is it?
If wrestlers, like when wrestlers get hammered and fight.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Like Sid Vicious, Sid Justin. You remember Sid from WWE?
Yeah, I do. I know the name.
He
I keep
stabbed
seeing
Arn
blood on his
Anderson
face. Yeah.
with scissors in a hotel. They got in a fight. He picked up scissors and tried to kill him.
Yeah.
He just got fired for that, and then WWF hired him.
Yeah.
Like that's the way wrestling used to be. Oh, we got to let you go. You tried to kill one of your coworkers with a pair of scissors.
Yeah. When he went over to WCW, I wonder if they were like, "Hey, don't stab anybody with scissors."
Yeah, like, hey, you get one of those.
Yeah. So did you rate this guy, the British fella?
William Regal. Yeah, the fact that he has an accent helps.
Sure.
Great talker and also great comedy wrestler. Can do a lot of funny bits.
Yeah, he looks
He's
attractive to
aging
me.
very, very well. I'm going
Like a fine wine.
7 for this guy.
Okay. Well, how about that, huh? Man. Okay, that was 5, right?
Yep.
Coming in at number 4.
This is a more of an indie guy.
Okay.
He just came back. He was supposed to die of cancer a few years ago.
In
But
real life or in the
In
script?
real life. No, in real life. He was on his deathbed for about a year.
Cancer is the ultimate heal.
Yeah, and he kicked out. This man is called the Necro Butcher.
Okay.
The Necro Butcher was
I knew you were gonna have a bunch of these fucking guys on.
The Necro Butcher was a deathmatch wrestler. He just recently came back.
And what's a deathmatch wrestler for the
For people who don't know, this started in Japan.
Can you spell it?
Necro, Necro space Butcher. I would put wrestler at the end as well because there's actually a bass player from a band called the Necro Butcher as
Got it.
well.
might end
Nailed
up
it,
on some
sorry.
kid porn site or something. Necro Butcher.
Deathmatch wrestling started a lot in Japan. Imagine the ECW hardcore style
Okay.
turned up to 11.
All right.
Glass, fire, cinder blocks, thumbtacks, you name it. And what makes the Necro Butcher especially scary,
He looks terrifying.
so he's from West Virginia. By the way, if you scroll up a little, that's scroll the other way. I'm sorry. You see, you passed
Like
him
I
in
saw
the
him with
yellow
a Trump
shirt.
hat.
Yeah. There's something about these. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
There's something about these guys that when you get enough concussions, you fucking love Trump.
That makes sense.
That makes perfect
It
sense.
really, there's a correlation that I want to see
Yeah.
between concussions and conservatism.
He's scary because he looks
Absolutely.
like he has mental illness.
Well, so yeah,
And if there's any president that was a heel, it's Trump.
Oh,
I mean, the
100%.
ultimate heel.
he was a heel in WWE.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wasn't he
I
on?
know.
Yeah, totally.
I always say this. I think anything that breaks my mind more than anything is the fact that we have a president that was stone cold stunnered.
There's a great picture of Vince, Stephanie, Triple H, Shane, Trump, Vince's wife, and like somebody else. And it's like everyone in this photo in the White House has been stone cold stunnered.
It's crazy. It's such a mind melt.
So Necro Butcher is from West Virginia. He is the real deal, old Southern crazy person.
Okay.
And what I think is especially scary about him, so I just said he wrestles in broken glass, thumbtacks, all that crazy shit. He wrestles barefoot.
Oh man, really?
So he's walking around in that. So like, think about every time you've seen the thumbtacks or whatever.
Yeah.
He's just strolling through. Like there's nothing. Did you see The Wrestler
Yes.
with Mickey Rourke? He's who he has the hardcore match with.
Oh, it's actually him.
It was written for him.
A Lego could take me down if I'm barefoot.
They actually do
Was
Lego
he
matches.
actually in the film?
Yeah,
Or- okay,
he's
yeah,
who
yeah,
he has
cool.
the match with.
Gotcha.
There are Lego matches. The Lego sued, so they have to call them something like multicolored bricks.
Okay. Yeah.
But I have a friend who's wrestled in Lego matches, and he said they hurt like hell
Yeah, man.
to get slammed on.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But Necro Butcher, yeah, it's the most believable dude. He's high all the time.
Yeah.
He is.
You have to be if you're stepping on thumbtacks.
Yeah, he's that guy. And yeah, I've just seen him do wild, unbelievable. Like my soul is changed from watching how bad you got hurt shit,
Yeah.
and get up like it was nothing.
Yeah. What are you giving him?
Just because he gives it 100, I'll let him get a blimp on the radar 1.
Really?
take
I
it.
think he's hotter than that.
No.
I feel like
I
feel like he
really,
licked pussy good.
He's had like 4 wives. See, this guy rules.
Yeah.
The other thing, what was I gonna say?
It looks like
Fuck.
he has a big dick, honestly. Though. He has big
Yeah.
dick energy.
All right, take it easy. It's
The
a
way I
family
describe
show.
the Necro Butcher is he looks like a guy your dad knows that he
Yeah.
doesn't like.
Uh-huh.
He looks like a guy at a
Yeah.
bar that your dad would be like, that guy's
Stay away
fucking
from
bad
that guy.
news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like every
Yeah.
dad
Mental
knows.
illness. Stay away from that guy.
Every dad has this guy in
Yeah.
his life,
Totally.
and he's like, listen, that guy is like, don't have a beer with him.
Yeah. He actually, that's very specific to me because it does actually remind me of a couple of my dad's friends.
Yeah, my dad's a welder, and I've met this guy.
Yeah, me too. Did you ever go to ECW matches?
I was just a boy.
Yeah. Well, I'm from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So I did go before because I got into it for a little bit. I had like such a weird relationship with wrestling where like I like intensely loved it, and then like more than anything ever in my life, there was just like a switch that went off, and I just didn't care at all. Like one day it was like my life, and then the next day I didn't give a fuck at all.
Yeah, I had a few lost years, and then I got right back into it.
Yeah, but I did go to ECW before, and just like my one like real vivid memory of it was that I was standing basically behind a beam, or like one of those like large like structure things, and there was like a fence, like because I was right there, and the security guard was like, "You have to move," and I was like, "Okay," and like when he told me to move, a second later. That they like slammed into it, like I would have probably been murdered. I was like 14 years
Yeah,
old.
and was this at the arena?
It was at their main place.
Yeah, to the 2300. Okay.
Yeah.
So Adele, just to give Adele some context, the ECW arena was a bingo hall,
Oh,
and it was kind of like the Rocky Horror Picture Show of wrestling, in that everybody's super crazy into it. There was a dollar store down the street, and everyone would buy weapons to give to the wrestlers. And it was like all crazy people
But they would do like just anything you could think of like the craziest
jumping
thing.
off balconies, like kind of dangerous. And
Setting
if you
people
want
on fire type shit.
if you want to talk drug use in wrestling,
Yeah.
yeah.
these
They
guys
couldn't
were.
feel it probably.
And they really, for like, they were always kind of niche, but like they also kind of like had like a moment where they were like really challenging everything. Like I felt like
Well,
for like
Vince
a
was
year or two.
backing them.
Okay.
WWF was bankrolling them.
Got you.
So that's why they were getting their best guys.
Okay. I feel like 99.
Yeah,
was,
they were
like,
using them
really-
as a feeder system. And so Vince couldn't put shit like that on TV, but he could secretly give them a little cash.
Oh, cool. They're like it's like a guerrilla army
Yeah.
somewhere. It's
And-
like
but
the
these-
U.S. is funding them.
Yeah, I'm talking like there was a guy named New Jack who died recently.
I'm
New
surprised
Jack,
he hasn't made your list.
I wanted to only pick one Necro Butcher type.
I got you.
New Jack used to do coke in the middle of the match. He would like run off camera,
I
do
was gonna say,
coke,
where are the cameras? At this
and then
point?
jump off a balcony.
Hey, man, there's a time and a place for everything. Like, if you're in ECW, you should be doing cocaine.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's
Most
not,
of the ECW guys are not with us anymore.
Yeah. And it's, man, a lot of wrestlers, I mean, obviously, it's a fucking tough life, man.
It's
get-
like being a comic plus you're
Physical.
injured.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, like, if you're still alive, you're a lucky person.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with fucking probably so many chronic pains and all of that stuff.
Yeah, watching some of these guys walk is tough.
Yeah, it's crazy. I watched Gilbert Godfrey walk upstairs once. That was tough.
He was
Rest
a
in peace,
little
Gilbert.
old. Yeah, very, very funny.
Yeah.
You didn't realize how old he was until you spent time with him.
Yeah, until
And
you
you're like,
saw
oh,
him
that's a
walk
little old
upstairs.
man.
Yeah. But that was 4, right?
Yeah.
Coming in
Top
at number
three. There you
3.
go.
Kurt Angle.
Kurt Angle. He was like the wait, did we rate the other person? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you did. You gave him a 1. Kurt Angle was like the most like wrestler, right?
Kurt Angle won the Olympics
Yes.
for wrestling with a broken neck.
Unbelievable.
Isn't a broken neck mean death?
Not when you're Kurt Angle.
There's
Fair.
worse ways to. It was what would be considered a broken neck, not the kind that paralyzes
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Um,
Levels to this.
So he's just the I would say the best technician of all time.
Yeah, technician. That's the word I was looking for.
He not everybody can do go from the Olympic wrestling to to pro wrestling.
Yeah.
He really found the best style for it.
Mm-hmm.
And he developed a person. So he actually was going to go to WCW. Then he went to ECW and thought it was very offensive.
Mm-hmm.
So then he became like the local sports guy in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And he sucked dick.
Mm-hmm.
And he would do like pizza commercials and shit.
Yeah.
And he had no personality. Then for some reason he got to WWE and he's got all the personality. Because what they figured, they were just having him wrestle. And he's, local hero. He won the fucking Olympics, America.
Yeah.
But much like The Rock, people didn't buy it. People didn't want to be told who to cheer for and why. So they started booing him. And he, like The Rock, figured out, oh, let me turn it up. Coming to the ring with the medals, American flag down.
Yeah.
I am your Olympic hero.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the fact that he could
spirit over here.
The fact that he could back it up.
Yeah.
And because he's like what I would consider the ideal stature for a wrestler,
He
which
is
is
a
short with no neck.
Specimen. He's
Yeah.
a specimen.
I mean, not short, but like he's wide,
yeah.
no neck, because those guys get under you, and then you're upside down and you don't know what happened.
Yeah. For context, like every time she's Google imaged people, like even if I know them, I just look at them just to look at them. And since she's Google imaged him, I can't stop looking at him.
Yeah.
Like he's like
He's
like Stretch Armstrong kinda,
brolic
too, like-
and beautiful specimen.
oh my god, he's like a pit bull.
Yeah, and he's just launching people.
He looks like he's short though. Short king.
No, not too short. I look up his height. I bet he's not too short.
Yeah.
I mean, in wrestling standards, probably, but in regular human standards, no.
Yeah.
Because people forget how fucking big. Like Shawn Michaels is 6'1",
Heartbreak Kid.
and you wouldn't think it.
No.
Oh my god, he's 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
Damn.
Is he still alive?
Kurt's still alive. He retired a few years ago.
Good for
Okay,
him.
I'm back on board.
Good. Why that he's 6 foot? You mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. What are you giving him?
a 9.
Oh,
Hell yeah, Kurt
highest
Angle.
rank so far. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's cool. Like, cause wait, who was the person else we were talking about? Who was a real wrestler with the thick neck? Earlier?
Brock Lesnar.
Was he also an Olympic champion?
Brock Lesnar was a NCAA champion.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Multiple times, and then he came right over.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar is such, and he almost made this one, but Kurt took the spot I would have given
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar is such a scary person. He wrestles in college, multi-time NCAA champion. Comes to WWE, amazing at it. Quits, decides he's never played football in his life. He makes the Vikings.
Yeah.
I think he just made it to like the practice team.
Yeah.
But I mean, he makes it onto the fucking payroll of the Vikings.
I don't know how he couldn't just be defensive or offensive line
Because
he's so big. It's like
So
wide as
big.
shit.
so he just decides, oh, let me try football at 30.
Did Kurt Angle and him ever fight?
Yeah, and they're great.
Yeah, that
They
must have
fucking
been-
murder each other. They have a
Yeah.
ton. They're really good. Actually, Kurt broke his neck wrestling Brock at WrestleMania.
Oh shit.
Brock. Well, Kurt wrestled very hurt, and then Brock tried to do a top rope move, and he landed on his head and fucked himself up.
Oh man. Yeah.
So he decides, I'm going to play football. Makes the Vikings. Goes, this UFC shit looks like it's a lot of money. Wins the UFC heavyweight title.
What's he? How old is he at this point?
It's 30s.
Yeah.
How do you do in this season on the Vikings?
Not great. But, I mean, for someone who's never played fucking football before, he made the NFL.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Even like the practices to get through.
Yeah.
Never mind
You know,
playing.
wins the UFC title as I think UFC 100 at the time has the biggest UFC pay-per-view of all time. Then goes, I'll go back to wrestling, I guess. Yeah, because he got it started. What happened is he got diverticulitis, and they took out like half of his intestines.
Okay.
After that, the fights weren't as good.
Yeah.
Because everybody realized you could punch him in the diverticulitis.
Dude,
You
his
punch him-
intestines must have been so fucking massive
Well,
when they took him
So
out.
he just like lives in the woods and hunts.
Mhm.
And they said
With
I
the
think
bare
he
hands.
got. Oh yeah, I think he just beats deer up.
Yeah.
Uh,
Puts him in a
Chokes.
soup plate.
yeah. They said he got diverticulitis because he was just eating meat.
Uh-huh.
Like he had no other thing in his diet,
Oh, yeah.
and
yeah.
his guts were like they just gave up.
It's the Joe Rogan
Yeah.
diet. That's funny.
And then he goes. But then eventually everybody figured out you can just punch him in the belly and he falls over.
Mm-hmm.
So then he goes back to wrestling and has another 10 years of fucking top notch.
He's like the Death Star of a wrestler. You just
Yeah.
you got that one spot.
Yeah, but he's so scary and well, same good guy, bad guy doesn't matter. It's who you point him at.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh my God, terrifying. Okay, Kurt Angle was 3. Coming in at number 2.
Mick Foley,
Okay, who's gone by many names.
gone by many names. Originally he was Cactus Jack,
Mm-hmm.
and he was Mankind
My favorite.
and Dude Love,
Mm-hmm.
and then just Mick Foley again.
Mm-hmm.
He also plays Santa Claus quite frequently.
Dude Love was pretty good too.
It's very entertaining.
Absolutely. And in that same way with like when Mankind came out, when after you Google Mick Foley, Google Mankind wrestler, like Mankind too was like the gold dust thing of just blowing people's minds.
It was so weird and dark, and no one was prepared for it.
Yeah, really. Wrestling was really forward in some ways with some stuff.
So that's what basically when Adele asked before about the Attitude Era.
Uh-huh.
What had happened was there was this thing called the Montreal Screwjob,
Okay.
where there was 2 wrestlers, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart.
It's like you taking a trip to Canada.
Bret Hart was leaving the company to go to the competition, but he was the champion,
Uh-huh.
and he didn't want to lose his title in Canada because he was Canadian.
Mm.
So and you could ask some people think it's a work, but many people, as per what's been filmed, they had him go out and they rang the bell and said he lost. He punched Vince McMahon. He spit at him.
Bret Hart did?
Yeah, it's called the Montreal Screwjob. He had people like quit the company over it.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Best there is, best there was, best there ever will be.
The other guy, Shawn Michaels, he was pushing the envelope as far as vulgarity, being a little more edgy. This is like Jerry Springer, Simpsons, South Park era of TV.
Mm-hmm.
And Vince McMahon saw that and he loved it. And he goes, that's what we need. We need attitude. And he spoke to the roster and he goes, this is the Attitude Era. I want to see you push boundaries.
I love that. What a pep talk.
And that's where you have Goldust and Mankind and these really weird characters where people are just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks.
So Mankind had a puppet as a sock, and his fucking finisher was the claw. He
Okay.
would literally put his hands in a person's mouth.
So, okay, I got this one. So his finish was the mandible claw.
Okay.
If you know what your mandible is,
No.
take your thumb,
Okay.
push right here. Hard.
Okay.
You feel that?
Yeah.
You feel there's like a thing?
Uh huh.
That goes on in the inside as well.
Okay.
It's the space in your jaw where
Got
there's
it.
nothing there.
Yeah. No.
So he would take his fingers,
Oh,
put it in
God.
your mouth, and push up and down.
Oh, yeah.
And it hurts like hell. It's a real nerve hold.
Yeah, it's a long way from a leg drop.
It's a real, but it's a legitimate way to hurt somebody if you could do it.
Uh-huh.
He got it from. Remember the movie The Fugitive?
Yes.
The doctor, the actual guy that TV show and movie was based off of. I can't remember his name. I apologize.
Put it up on the screen.
He got he was a real guy and he really got arrested for his wife's murder.
Was it really a one-armed man?
I don't know about that part. But when he got exonerated, he was too infamous to keep practicing medicine, so he became a wrestler.
No way.
And he invented the mandible claw based off of his medical knowledge and nerve holds. So when Mankind was going to WWE, he needed a new finisher. And he came up with, he wanted to do that because it was the first ever finishing move where you could get a close-up on both people.
Yeah.
Because every other submission, you can get one guy or the other, or you can get a wide. With the mandible claw, you can do it and then put your face next to him and get a close.
Yeah.
And he went to school for film and TV, so everything he did was very much, he was pre-planning the
Playing
shots.
for the camera, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you deep throat somebody with your fingers. You get it all in the shot.
And it hurts like hell in real
Yeah.
life if you really do it.
Yeah, my God. That's such a horrible thing that you have to, like, experience, too, because you're just wrestling gross for, like, a half an
Yeah.
hour, and then this guy's putting his fucking hand in your mouth.
So, have you ever heard of Hell in a Cell?
No.
Okay, so this is what made Mick Foley super famous. He's wrestling as Mankind. He's kind of at like a lull in his career, and he has this match called the Hell in a Cell. And have you ever seen
Is it versus Undertaker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever seen a cage match where they put
Yes.
walls around, right?
Mm-hmm.
A Hell in a Cell has a roof.
Okay, so you can like hang on the top of it.
They start the match on top.
Oh.
It's legit 16, 18 feet in the air.
Yeah.
They start the match. The Undertaker threw him off of it onto a table. He dislocated his shoulder. He's fucked up. They stretcher him out. Match is over in 3 minutes. He gets off the fucking stretcher, comes back down, and people are
Losing their mind.
losing because they just saw a guy die. Gets back on top of the cage and gets thrown through it to the ring. He hits so hard that it knocks one of his teeth out into his nose.
Stop.
And they say wrestling's fake.
So one of his teeth goes through his upper lip. So now this is a hole, and he's got a tooth jammed up his nose. They keep wrestling for another 10 minutes while he's knocked out
Oh my word.
until he puts thumbtacks down in the ring and gets slammed on those.
Yep. Doesn't he win?
No, he does not
You
win.
know, okay.
If it's a
Never
Mick
mind.
Foley match, assume he does not win.
Gotcha. Yeah, I saw one of those similar. Well, it wasn't as good, but I went to the WrestleMania in Philadelphia, and it was like one of the Hells in the Cell, and the Undertaker hung the Big Boss Man.
Yeah.
Like literally hung him from the cell, like he was dead.
Wait, no.
He had a
but
harness
not.
on.
He hung him.
Yeah.
It was a different.
Yeah,
time.
that was a different time when just there were murders in wrestling
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. And then sometimes Owen Hart would actually die.
Yeah.
Man, what a crazy
Unfortunately,
one.
you just spoiled number one.
Well, no, I didn't. It was a good segue.
Yeah.
Coming in at number one.
My favorite of all time is Owen Hart.
You know, and that's, I mean, listen, man, if you're dying for this shit, you should be number one.
I think we talked about Kurt being a great technician.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the best combination of everything. Technician, talker, personality, everything.
Because the story also, for me, for Owen Hart, on why, me growing up, my favorite was Bret Hart, right? And, like, Owen, the story is that he's in Bret's shadow.
Yeah.
But he really is in Bret's shadow. So it's one of those things of, like, art imitating life, imitating art. And then,
100%.
like, he did anything he could to try to get out of that shadow, and he did by dying.
And most people would agree he was probably better than Bret, but Bret was first and he was the famous one.
Yes, and it was the big, and their dad was,
Did he die wrestling?
yep.
He-
Tell
there
that
was
story, Zach.
Unfortunately, yeah, they're on pay-per-view, live
I
on
was
pay-per-view.
gonna say, was the camera rolling?
They
That's
cut.
a snuff film.
They cut, and the footage has been destroyed.
Oh.
But he was supposed to be, so he was doing this weird superhero thing, and he was supposed
The
to be.
green meanie?
No, you're confusing the blue meanie. Blue meanie.
Okay.
No, it was the blue
I think it's
blazer.
your hair that's throwing me off. Maybe.
He was supposed to be lowered down to the ring, and then he had it was like a comedy thing, and he had a little switch that was supposed to have the harness let go when he was like 3 feet above the ring, and he would do a big comedy fall. The guy
it was the biggest comedy fall of all time.
that did the harness said he was the one. There was a guy in WCW named Sting that used to come down from the rafters like that. This guy said, I did that. In the trial, they found out he saw somebody do it once
Oh, wow.
and claimed it was him.
Man.
So Owen hit the turnbuckle and died in the ring
Yeah.
in front of the fans. And then they continued the pay-per-view because Vince McMahon is soulless.
That is disgusting.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to end on a bummer, but he is legitimately my favorite, the most
Oh, yeah.
entertaining,
It's all good.
the funniest. Like he would like.
Also kind of a piece of shit, too. 'cause-
Oh yeah, a great heel.
Well, he almost killed Stone Cold, too.
Oh yeah, that was not on purpose though.
That's not the way Stone Cold tells it.
Yeah, I think there.
Hey, I don't want to speak ill of
Yeah.
the dead, but that's why I mean. Stone Cold said that like he said that he was cool with doing that like pile driver thing,
Yeah.
and he like broke Stone Cold's neck.
Yeah, he did.
Stone Cold. That's another one I know.
Yeah.
I always thought that was a cool name.
What are you giving Owen Hart alive?
Well, I have to factor in the fact that he died for the cause. It's part of how I'm going to rank him. So I'm gonna give him a couple bumps up. He's an 8.
Okay. Yeah. No.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking on earlier thing, the nepotism of thing of like that family,
The Hart family,
Harts.
all of them wrestled.
What was their the dungeon? Was
Yeah,
that
the
what it
Hart
was called?
Dungeon was their house.
Yeah.
That they trained in. They had mats in the basement, and they would train a ton of wrestlers from the 90s all trained there.
Yeah.
And their dad, Stu Hart, was a famous wrestler. Scariest old man in the world. There's a story that there was a local priest in Calgary, where they're from, Alberta, Canada, who got caught doing that thing priests do.
Okay.
So they invited him over for
He's
dinner.
not talking about giving a sermon either.
Giving semen. They invited him over for dinner, and then the dad said, "Hey, let me show you some wrestling moves."
Stop.
And they said you could hear the priest screaming down the block
I love that story.
because he was like they
Yeah.
did like joint manipulation, like the real like torture shit.
Yeah.
But Owen was just so they actually did a match in the dungeon. They went to their house and shot it there, and it's like my prime example of why Owen Hart is so fucking funny. So it was him versus Ken Shamrock. We discussed a few times, and they're having this back and forth match, kind of using the house as a prop, and then the referee's back is turned, and Owen just picks up a dumbbell and cracks him in the head with it, and then puts him in a submission and taps for him, and there's no crowd to play to.
Taps form is funny. Yeah.
There's no crowd to play to.
Uh-huh.
But Owen still acts like there is, and he's just in his own parents' basement, and he looks into the camera, and it's such a funny thing to say, and I've stolen this a few times when I do wrestling shit. He just looks at the camera and goes, "I did it! I did it all by myself!" I was like, yeah, you're the only one there.
Yeah.
But it's such a funny little kid.
Yeah. He's like the Fredo of wrestling to a certain extent.
100%. He's
Yeah.
just the jealous little brother, and he took it to the funniest, he's just the greatest.
Yeah. At the height of COVID, when everything was shut down, they were still doing wrestling, and it felt like that. Like, they weren't acknowledging COVID, and they were just doing it in empty arenas. And
Yeah.
it was so surreal and
It was
weird
really, really weird.
and funny and cool. The what a list. One of my favorite wrestling memories of all time that I just want to say real quick, we're going over, is Barry Horowitz?
Yes, of course.
Of course you do. There's this guy, Barry Horowitz. He lost all the time. And one time he beat the 1-2-3 Kid, and I just always remember Horowitz wins, Horowitz wins, and it's my favorite memory of just like the guy who always loses winning once.
And then that's a great story to go off of too.
Yeah.
Now for the guy that he beat to have to live with that shame.
Because the 1-2-3, I don't know if he was the 1-2-3 Kid when he beat him. He might have been X-Pac or something.
No, he was 1-2-3 Kid, I think.
Was he? Because then how 1-2-3 Kid came up is he beat Razor Ramon.
Yeah.
So it was like the reverse thing of that. That was cool. Zack, what a list. Where can the people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at ZackIsNotFunny, Z-A-C is not funny. And I have 3 podcasts you can check out. Zac Amico's Midnight Spook Show, which is a movie watch-along. Bye Guys with Ian Fidance. And the Real Ass Podcast with me and Louis J. Gomez. I also have a new movie out, #Shakespeare's Shitstorm. And that is currently touring in theaters across America.
Check it out, goddammit, Adele.
Yes, follow me on Instagram, Adele Carollo, and of course, subscribe to Top 9 Podcasts on YouTube. Leave a comment, rate us on Apple,
Do that.
say hello.
Cassidy Comedy, Life After Funny out right now. Check it out on YouTube. What's up?
Also, I'm so sorry. Since we were talking about wrestling, Catalyst Wrestling is the company I work for. YouTube, Gas Digital Network, Tubi, Pluto, if you have any of those. It's all free. Nice. Hundreds of episodes. I have 2 or 3 matches, so if you just search me on there, you'll run into me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
not at all.
it.
Please. Thanks for joining us, Zach. Thanks, Adele.
Yes.
We'll see you next week. Thanks, guys. Peace.